Welcome to the channel. Today we are talking about the Towed. You heard me right, the Towed. That means a tow vehicle behind your RV. And so we're going to be talking in specifics to the leisure travel van. Now, the leisure travel van has the ability to go anywhere you want to go. So if you don't want to have a tow vehicle, you don't have to have one. It's 25 foot long and it'll fit into most parking lots, and you're not going to have an issue of taking it into cities and things like that. I mean, it's not optimal, but you will be able to do that. Now then, if you want to be able to have the freedom to explore, to be able to set up camp and not break down every time you just want to go out to eat or go explore or go hiking, or if you want to go somewhere and leave your pets in your climate controlled LTV, then this is a perfect opportunity to take a tow vehicle with you. Now, there are several limitations to what you can take with a leisure travel van, and we're going to get into that. So we're going to be talking about the pros and cons, the limitations, as well as the 3 vehicles that have made the short list for Janet and I's Towed. Okay, so as we get into a leisure travel van's limitations, I want to talk first a little bit about pros and cons. Again, you will see a lot of talk on the Facebook forums and things like that about people who say you don't need a Towed. You don't want to have that extra burden. And there is something to that, not having to deal with hooking up and worrying about another vehicle, towing it at highway speeds and different things like that. So there is something to think about. But what you have to do is you have to weigh that against the freedoms that a tow vehicle will give you. Now, the leisure travel van, like I said, it is completely capable of basically parking it anywhere you want to in any parking lot you want to. It does take up a little bit of room. Sometimes you are going to have a double space in order to park, but that's generally not a problem. So again, the pros are going to be you're going to have freedom. You're going to be able to set your LTV up at a campsite and not have to break it down just to go to the grocery store or to go hiking or anything like that. So that is going to be your personal preference. But there are several limitations to what the LTV can tow. Motorhome Magazine every year puts out a guide of the best dinghies to pull behind a motorhome. And so whenever you have a Class A or a very large Class C, you're basically going to be able to pull anything you want. You can pull Suburbans, Tahoes, the biggest of Jeeps. You can pull F-150s, all of those different types of vehicles. But when you drop down to the 3500 Sprinter chassis, which the LTV has, you start dropping what you can carry because of weight. And so I want to go over all of those weights with you and explain exactly how it works with a leisure travel van and, just what vehicles you can tow with it. So when you talk about a leisure travel van and the ability to tow, like I said, you have a ton of limitations. And so let's talk about those weights. And I did my homework. I've got it all compiled right here so you can have all of the information that you need. Now then, check my numbers. This is the math that I did. These are the numbers that are on the website. I also contacted Triple E and made sure I got all the correct curb weights and different things like that. But again, do your own math. Go to a CAT scale, weigh your stuff to make sure that you are not overweight. The reason you don't want to be overweight, whether it be inside your leisure travel van or what you're towing, is because if you have an accident, all of a sudden you are in deep water. The insurance company is not going to pay. You could be charged civilly or criminally, and so you definitely do not want to be overweight ever in case you have an accident. And so everything that we're going to be talking about is basically max weights, because what you have to take into account is your black tank going to be full? Is your gray tank going to be full? Is your water going to be full? Your fuel tank, your propane tank? All of those add up into the weights that are going to take away what you can tow, what you can put in your leisure travel van. And so we're going to talk about that right now. Now, we are going to specifically talk about the Unity leisure travel van. The Wonder, prior to this year, had basically you could not tow a vehicle with it. I think it had a max rating of about 2,000 pounds. They have upped it with the new Ford Transit chassis that I think is up to 4,000 pounds, but that is going to be severely limiting on what you can tow with a Wonder. So if you have a Wonder, you're probably not interested in towing either. So what we're going to be talking about is the Unity. I'm sure this would match for the Serenity as well. Some of those weights are going to be a little different in the Serenity. They're not making the Serenity anymore for the time being anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus purely on the Unity. So the Unity has a curb weight of 9,478 pounds. The curb weight is basically what the thing weighs without any fuel, without any water, without any people. It's just what the thing weighs on the side of the road. So 9,478 pounds. It has a gross vehicle weight rating of 11,030 pounds. That means everything that you put in it, including people, pets, food, water, fuel, everything, basically you have a limitation of 1,552 pounds worth of stuff that can go in your LTV to keep you under that gross vehicle weight rating. So this is where a towed is going to come in. So when you pull a towed, it goes against what's called the gross combined vehicle weight rating, which for the Unity is 15,250 pounds. So you take 15,250 pounds, and then you minus that gross vehicle weight rating of 11,030, and you basically have a max weight for your tow vehicle of 4,220 pounds. So why you say, well, I'm not going to carry that much stuff. I could have a little bit higher of a towed. You have to really account for what if you did have a full black tank, a full gray tank, a full water tank, a full fuel tank, a full fuel tank in the towed. All of a sudden, you could be completely overweight and not even realize it. That's why when you look at a towed, you must look at a curb weight of that towed that is 4,220 pounds or lower. In fact, one of the ones that makes our short list is about 30 pounds over that. For us, I think that's going to be okay because, I mean, you can shed 30 pounds really, really fast. If you think so, just drain a little bit of fresh tank or go drop your or dump your black tank, whatever it may be. But you don't want to look at any towed that's going to be over 4,220 pounds. So let's get into how this stacks up for Janet and I. Okay, so let's talk about a base weight for when you travel. A base weight is basically what I'm calling the driver, the passenger, a fuel tank that is full, fresh water that is full, a propane tank that is full, and basically any pets. So any living beings within your leisure travel van, and plus whatever it takes in order to operate that thing. Now, this does not include food and, the things that you have inside. And so, when you talk about a base weight for Janet and I, we start out with 860 pounds. So when you take 860 pounds off of that 1,552 pounds that is allotted, we basically have 692 pounds left over for things like chairs, for a Blackstone grill, things like our clothing, food, anything else that we want to take with us. And so for the driver, I'm 185 pounds, Janet's 115 pounds, don't tell her I told you that. Our dogs are 60 pounds. A full fuel tank for a leisure travel van is 170 pounds. Water is 214 pounds if you have that fresh water tank full. And propane is 66 pounds. And like I said, for us, that's 860 pounds base weight. This is before we put one other thing in it to take on a trip. And so all of this is going to change the driver weight, the passenger weight, the weight of your pets. Those are basically variables that you got to plug in to kind of figure out. And then, like I said, we've got 692 pounds more of stuff that we can take with us. You think, well, that's a lot of weight to take. Not really. I mean, when you look at things like e-bikes, which are about 65 pounds a piece, a carrier for those e-bikes, all of those things, all of a sudden, that's probably over 150 pounds right there. Now you're dropping into the 400 weight ratio that you've got to figure out all of your other things. And so when we choose a toad, I want to make sure that that toad is light enough that we can carry other things in it, that if we want to take whatever we want to take, that we're going to have the ability to do so because the weight is going to be in the toad and not in the leisure travel van, because we will eat that weight up really, really quick, especially with full black tank, especially with a full gray tank. Now, you're not going to travel with that all the time, but there is the possibility that you could have all three of your liquid tanks full, and that is going to eat up probably 400 pounds or more of what we have is 600 pounds of allotted extra stuff that we can carry. So let's go in and let's talk about the Towed, those weights, and how we plan on making sure that we have plenty of weight for our Towed to carry more stuff. Okay, before we get into our short list of what we are going to do with those weights and how it's going to affect the way we travel, I want to talk about some very common toads that people pull behind leisure travel vans. Because again, you want to stay underneath that 4,220 pounds. Surprisingly, there are not a lot of offerings, and you have to make sure that the vehicle is rated for four-wheel down towing. Some people can carry other things on trailers or on dollies and different things like that. But all of that is going to eat into your weight as well. And I think you can go on YouTube and find some RVers that have tried the dolly thing and basically threw it away after not very long and decided to tow four down. Towing four down is going to be the best way as far as saving weight and probably ease and all of those different things. Now, there is a large expense to it. You have to have a tow bar, you have to have the hookups to your car, you've got to have a supplemental braking system, and you've got to have a wiring harness that will connect your brake lights and turn signals to the car back to the LTV. So yes, there is going to be a pretty good investment in making a car towable. But let's talk about those things. So some of the lightest weights that you can carry is like a Fiat 500. Now, of course, this is going to be a manual transmission Fiat 500. Check the owner's manual to make sure that it can be towed four down. Also, a Mini Cooper is in a manual transmission, is able to be towed behind the leisure travel van. And the Honda Fit manual transmission. All of those vehicles are really, really light, under 3,000 pounds. And so you're going to have plenty of towing capacity for those vehicles. Now then, those three did not make our short list, so let's talk about the three that did. Okay, the first one that made our short list probably makes everybody's short list. It's slightly heavy, but very, very doable, and that is the Jeep Wrangler. So the Jeep Wrangler is probably the most popular tow vehicle for any size RV, just because they have the ability to go anywhere you want. If you want to go up in the mountains, you want to go off-roading, or basically just down the highway, the Jeep Wrangler is going to be able to do it. Plus, it's probably the easiest to get into tow mode, which is you just shift that transfer case into neutral and you're ready to go. In some vehicles, you have to do all sorts of things. You have to remove fuses, you have to do secret codes in order to get your transfer case into neutral. But with the Jeep, super easy, and like I said, probably the most popular. Now then, a few caveats about the Jeep Wrangler that you can tow behind a leisure travel van. You can't get all excited and say, oh, I'm going to get this awesome Rubicon all decked out with these giant tires and winches and lights and all of that stuff, because you will be overweight immediately. You're going to have to choose a two-door version, I believe. So a two-door version weighs 3,970 pounds. It's going to get you under that 4,220 pounds that we talked about earlier. You could even take out the back seat to save 150 pounds, I believe, or so. That's going to drop you down even further, allow you to carry more stuff. Because our philosophy is our Towed is also going to become a trailer to carry more stuff for us, if we want to. You don't want to, camping and RVing is not about how much stuff you have, it's about the memories you're making. But if you do want to carry some stuff, you can have the ability to do it. So the Jeep Wrangler is going to have the ability to be able to be towed behind a leisure travel van Unity, as well as give you some opportunity to put a little bit of stuff. Not much, like I said, it's 3,970 pounds. Plus a full fuel tank in that thing will add 115 pounds, right? And so all of a sudden you only have 135 pounds worth of stuff that you could put in that Wrangler to tow with you behind that leisure travel van. Okay, number 2 on the short list is the heaviest out of the offerings here, and that is the Jeep Cherokee. Now the Jeep Cherokee has some serious caveats to it. One, it's basically overweight by about 30 pounds the second you get started, in a sense of if your leisure travel van was completely packed out with your gross vehicle weight rating, right? So you have 1,552 pounds of stuff. If you put all of that stuff in there, including fuel tanks and all that we talked about, then you only have 4,220 pounds you can tow behind your leisure travel van. So the Jeep Cherokee that you can actually pull 4 down is 4,250 pounds. Okay, that's going to make you 30 pounds overweight if your leisure travel van Unity is completely loaded with the allotted amount of things you can have in it. Now then, why do I say the one that you can, can't you just buy a Cherokee 4x4 and tow it? No, you cannot. This is where you're going to get in trouble if you just go buy a 4x4 and think you can flat tow that thing. The Jeep Cherokee that you can tow has a special transmission option called Active Drive 2. Now this Active Drive 2 is an option that you can add to it if you're purchasing new, but if you're purchasing used, you're going to want to really do your research to make sure it has that transmission option of Active Drive 2, which will allow you to put the transfer case into neutral. Now the Trailhawk, it comes standard with Active Drive 2, but like I said, that Trailhawk weighs 4,250 pounds, putting you at 30 pounds overweight if you're completely decked out in your leisure travel van. And so is this the best option? Probably not, because then when you add fuel to that Cherokee, that's 95 pounds. And so that's 95 pounds you're not going to be able to have in your leisure travel van or inside the Cherokee, or, is just probably not the best solution. Now, is it a nice looking vehicle, easy to drive? Yeah, but do we want those weight limitations? I don't think so. Okay, number 3 that made our short list, and that is the Subaru Crosstrek. Now the Subaru Crosstrek is going to be the best solution as far as weight goes. The Subaru Crosstrek weighs 3,177 pounds, giving you a mass amount of extra weight that you're going to be able to carry in that Crosstrek and not go over your gross combined vehicle weight rating. And so the Subaru Crosstrek is, if you look at the marketing materials, it's marketed as an outdoors vehicle, meaning they show with bike racks on top, they show it 4-wheel driving because it has all-wheel drive. It's not 4-wheel drive, it's all-wheel drive, but they show it going through, rivers and fields and things like that. And so you're going to have the ability to basically have a Jeep-like vehicle without actually having a Jeep. Now the one thing about it is it has to be manual transmission, and that is where you have to weigh the pros and cons of, one, do you want to deal with a manual transmission? I personally don't mind a manual transmission. When we go to England, we rent cars, and basically the only rental cars there are manual transmissions. And so I drive all over England with a manual transmission. It's kind of fun, to be honest with you, and it's not really a burden to me. Now the problem is Janet doesn't know how to drive. She's never driven a manual transmission, but it's going to be fun to teach her, and I'll definitely make a video of it because I think it'll be quite humorous as well. But it has to be a manual transmission. And so you're not going to be able to have that great, what they call X mode in the Crosstrek if you get the automatic transmission, which basically is a fantastic transmission for off-roading and different things like that. Tons of videos on that if you're not interested in pulling 4 down, but you want to have a nice off-road vehicle. Crosstrek is actually a really good, inexpensive version of a Jeep, somewhat, not full Jeep. Anyway, so the Crosstrek, I think, is going to be the best solution of us and probably the one that we're going to pull the trigger on. Again, it's down to the Jeep Wrangler 2-door and the Subaru Crosstrek. I love the idea of having a super light tow vehicle. That gives me all the opportunities in the world in order to put more stuff in there, to be able to tow bikes, electric bikes, whatever I want to tow. I'm not going to worry at all about weight. And again, don't take my word on these weights. You got to make sure you do your own research. You got to make sure you do your own math. Go to a CAT scale, weigh your vehicles to make sure that these numbers are correct. But like I said, I'm taking them directly off of Leisure Travel Van's website, as well as I did talk to somebody at Triple E to just double check those curb weights and different things like that. But anyway, so put in your comments down below what you think about towing a vehicle in general. Put in the comments below what you tow and how it's working out for you, and also how it affects the gas mileage and different things like that for your leisure travel van when you are towing. I've read that it can affect it anywhere from 1 to 2 miles per gallon, which is really not a big deal. We get 16 miles a gallon, and so even if we got 14 or 15, you're still talking about an RV with a tow vehicle that gets 14 miles a gallon. That's crazy. It's almost unheard of. Trucks and trailers don't do that. I mean, we really had the most fuel economically smart vehicle that you can have in the RV world. Anyway, be sure you subscribe. We're going to be talking about more leisure travel van things. I hope you enjoyed this video. And like I said, put in your comments down below what you think about a tow vehicle, what you tow, and how it affects you. But we will see you next time.